Are you truly living or just existing? Close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath. Now, ask yourself, are you becoming the person you once dreamed of being, or have the years quietly pulled you further away? Life moves fast. Opportunities slip through our fingers, and before we know it, we find ourselves trapped in the same cycle: excuses, distractions, and promises to start tomorrow. But tomorrow turns into next week, next year, and eventually never. How much longer will you wait? How many more years will pass before you finally take control? Today is a turning point. In this video, I'm going to share 10 powerful Stoic lessons, not just ideas, but principles that have helped some of history's greatest minds conquer their fears, master their thoughts, and become their best selves. These lessons are not abstract philosophy. They are tools, sharp, unyielding, and transformative. If you use them, they will reshape the way you think, act, and face the world. Ethan was 38 when he hit rock bottom. He knelt on the cold floor of his small apartment, staring into the darkness, the weight of failure pressing down on his chest. He had lost his job, not because of bad luck or a ruthless boss, but because he had stopped trying. His marriage had crumbled, not because of fate, but because he had withdrawn, made excuses, and chosen distraction over presence. But what truly broke him wasn't losing his job or his wife. It was losing faith in himself. That night, as he mindlessly searched through his old books, his hands landed on a dusty copy of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. He had bought it years ago, but never read it. He flipped it open, and his eyes caught a single sentence. "Stop debating what a good man should be. Be one." The words struck him like lightning. No more blaming circumstances. No more waiting for things to change. He realized, in that moment, that he had been his own worst enemy. Ethan didn't wake up the next day with a new job, a fixed marriage, or a sudden stroke of luck. But he did something far more important. He went for a run. Not because it was easy, but because he needed to prove to himself that he could do something difficult and not quit. Day after day, he ran. Every time his mind whispered, "Give up," he remembered Marcus Aurelius. Today, Ethan isn't a millionaire. He isn't famous. But he is free. Free from excuses, free from self-pity, free from the weak version of himself that once ruled his life. And now, I have to ask you, how much longer will you let your own mind hold you back? Because Ethan's struggle isn't just his. It's yours. It's mine. It's everyone's. In this video, you will learn 10 Stoic lessons that will help you break free from your old habits, master your thoughts, and step into the strongest version of yourself. The choice is yours. Stay stuck or move forward. So, are you ready to take control? Let's begin. 1. Your biggest rival is yourself. Imagine this. You're in a boxing ring. The roar of the crowd is deafening, the lights are blinding, and sweat drips down your forehead as you feel the weight of the gloves in your hands. The bell rings. Your heart pounds. You take a step forward, scanning the ring, ready to face your opponent. But something feels off. You look ahead, but there's no one there. You glance at the referee. No reaction. The crowd keeps cheering. The ring is empty. And then, in the reflection of the ropes, in the sweat-covered floor, you finally see it. Your opponent has been there all along. It's you. It's not your boss. It's not the economy. It's not a lack of opportunities. It's not fate, bad luck, or society. Your greatest battle is against yourself. The voice in your mind that whispers, "You're not good enough." The one that tells you to wait until tomorrow. The one that convinces you that there's no point in trying because you'll probably fail. That voice has been controlling you, holding you back, and keeping you from the life you claim to want. How many times have you sabotaged yourself without even realizing it? How many opportunities have you let slip away because you convinced yourself you weren't ready? How many projects have you abandoned because you believed you wouldn't succeed? How many times have you postponed something you truly wanted to do because you told yourself now isn't the right time? The problem isn't the world. The problem isn't the competition. The problem isn't time. The problem is you. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "No man is free if he is not master of himself." Real freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. It is the ability to do what must be done, even when you don't feel like it. It is getting up when every part of you wants to stay in bed. It's taking action when your mind tells you to wait. It's facing yourself with complete honesty, even when you would rather cling to a comfortable excuse. But let's be clear, this isn't easy. Imagine if Epictetus were alive today and met someone who says they want to change but refuses to put in the effort. Someone who wants to be fit but instead of training buys miracle weight loss pills. Or worse, someone who signs up for a gym, pays the membership, and never goes. What do you think Epictetus would say? Probably something like, "You are wasting your time. You want someone else to fix your life for you, but they are not the problem. You are." Because that's the truth. You are your own greatest obstacle. But here's the good news. If you are your own worst enemy, then you can also become your greatest ally. Once you accept responsibility for your own limitations, you gain the power to overcome them. Once you stop blaming external circumstances, you realize that the solution has always been within you. So, how do you win this fight? First, stop lying to yourself. Grab a pen and paper. Write down 3 excuses you tell yourself every day. I don't have time. I'm not good enough. It's too late to start now. Look at them. Read them out loud. Are they real? Or are they just convenient stories you've been telling yourself to avoid discomfort? Second, pick one excuse and destroy it. If you say, "I don't have time," find 30 minutes. If you say, "I'm not good enough," do it anyway. If you think, "It's too late," remember that every day you don't try is another day wasted. This is what separates those who succeed from those who don't. The ones who move forward are not the ones with perfect circumstances. They are the ones who refuse to make excuses. Winston Churchill, a man who led Britain through its darkest hour, had every excuse to give up. He was old, overweight, and suffered from deep bouts of depression. But instead of succumbing to weakness, he trained his mind like a warrior trains his body. He forced himself to write, to speak, to lead. He acted not when it was easy, but precisely when it was hardest. And that is why history remembers his name. The same is true for you. If you allow yourself to be ruled by excuses, you will live a life of regret. But if you take control, if you silence the weak part of yourself with action, you will become unstoppable. The real fight isn't against the world. It isn't against your circumstances. It's against you. The Stoics believed in training the mind like a soldier prepares for battle. Just as a warrior must sharpen his sword, so must you sharpen your discipline. If you wait for motivation, you will remain weak. If you act only when it is easy, you will never accomplish anything. Marcus Aurelius didn't allow himself the luxury of excuses. He wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, remind yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being." He understood that discipline is not about how you feel. It is about what you do. If you want to change, start now. Do not wait for the right moment. The right moment is a lie. There is no future version of you that suddenly has more willpower, more time, or better circumstances. There is only now, and if you cannot act now, you never will. Seneca warned, "While we waste our time hesitating and postponing, life is slipping away." If you keep telling yourself tomorrow, one day you will wake up and realize you have run out of tomorrows. The key to overcoming this is action. The more you act, despite discomfort, the weaker your excuses become. Every time you say, "I can't," do something small to prove that you can. Every time you say, "It's not the right time," take action anyway. Every time your mind tries to justify itself, silence it with effort. If you are afraid of speaking up, force yourself to speak every day. If you think you lack the discipline to exercise, commit to 10 push-ups, no matter how tired you are. Strength is not something you are born with. It is something you train. And if you still struggle, impose a consequence. The Stoics believed in accountability and self-discipline. If you make an excuse, attach a cost to it. Did you avoid studying today? Donate money to charity. Did you skip your morning workout? Take a cold shower as a reminder that discipline is not optional. When you attach real consequences to your actions, you start making better decisions. But at the end of the day, no philosophy, no book, no video can save you. You must save yourself. Because the truth is harsh but simple. No one is coming to rescue you. No one is going to force you to improve. No one is going to hand you the life you want. It is up to you. So tell me, are you going to keep battling imaginary enemies? Are you going to keep blaming your circumstances, waiting for the perfect moment that will never come? Or are you finally ready to look in the mirror, face your greatest rival, and win? Because if you don't take control, you will never become your best self. 2. If you neglect your body, you lose the battle. It's early morning, your alarm rings, but instead of getting up, you hit snooze. 5 more minutes, you tell yourself. But 5 minutes become 10, then 20. By the time you finally drag yourself out of bed, your body feels sluggish, your mind foggy, and your energy drained before the day even begins. You stumble into the kitchen, pour yourself a double coffee, hoping it will revive you. It doesn't. By midday, your focus is gone, and even the simplest tasks feel like a burden. Exercise? Not today. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe your morning doesn't look exactly like this, but tell me, how often do you feel exhausted, unmotivated, and drained of energy? Worse, how often do you accept this as normal? It's not. The Stoics understood that the body and mind are not separate. They are one. Seneca warned us, if we do not take care of our bodies, our minds will also weaken. A neglected body leads to a weak will. You cannot expect mental resilience if your body is failing. You cannot hope for clarity of thought if you feed yourself like a glutton and live like a sloth. A mind that aspires to strength must reside in a body that is prepared for action. The discipline of the Stoics was not limited to thought, it was lived. Cato the Younger, one of the greatest Stoics of Rome, walked barefoot, wore thin clothing in the cold, and lived simply, not because he had to, but because he understood that a strong body creates a strong will. Marcus Aurelius, despite the luxury of his position, rose early, trained his body, and prepared himself daily for hardship. Because he knew that if the body's weak, the mind soon follows. Now look at yourself. Do you move with purpose, or do you drag yourself through the day? Do you train your body as a tool, or do you treat it as an afterthought? If you allow yourself to become weak, slow, and easily exhausted, how can you expect to have the discipline for anything greater? If you don't believe that physical strength affects your mind, Consider those who have refused to let their bodies define them. Dio Chrysostom, a Stoic philosopher, was exiled from Rome, forced to wander in poverty, enduring hunger and cold. But instead of breaking, he became stronger. He did not complain about his circumstances. He used them as training, proving that the body can be disciplined even under extreme hardship. Or look at Nick Vujicic, a man born without arms or legs. He could have surrendered to weakness, but he trained his body instead. He swims, he surfs, he refuses to let limitation be an excuse. He is living proof that even when the body is incomplete, discipline can make it strong. So now tell me, what's your excuse? You don't need to train like a warrior, but you do need to do the basics. Your body is like a horse. You can either tame it and make it your ally, or neglect it and let it slow you down. You can have the clearest goals in the world, but if your body is failing you, you won't reach them. If you wake up exhausted, rely on caffeine to function, and drag yourself through the day, your body is not serving you, it is betraying you. And if it betrays you, it is because you have neglected it. So, what will you do? Will you continue living this way, letting fatigue dull your mind and make every day harder than it should be? Or will you take back control? The good news is, you don't need drastic change. You don't need extreme sacrifice. You need one small action to start winning this battle. Start tomorrow. Move. It doesn't matter how, when, or where. Just move. Do whatever works for you. Walk, stretch, swim, train. And yes, I know the excuses. I have too much work. I have to take care of my responsibilities. I don't have time. But tell me, do you truly not have time? Or have you simply refused to make time? 10 minutes, that's all you need. A 10-minute walk, 10 minutes of stretching, 10 push-ups. You don't need an elaborate plan. You just need to start. Then do it again the next day, and the next, and the next. Before you know it, your body will start craving movement. You'll notice you have more energy. You'll sleep better. Your mind will become sharper. Because discipline, once established, reinforces itself. And after you move, change one thing about your diet. Do not make extreme resolutions. Do not attempt to change everything overnight. The Stoics didn't believe in excess, but in moderation and control. Simply pick one thing and improve it. Do you drink too little water? Have one more glass a day. Do you eat too many processed foods? Cut back on just one thing. The change does not need to be massive. It just needs to be deliberate. Because what matters is not a single effort, it's consistency. A small movement each day turns into energy. A small change in your diet turns into clarity. A single step in the right direction makes everything else easier. And if you ever doubt this, remind yourself, the greatest minds in history did not wait for perfect conditions to take care of their bodies. They simply did the work. Marcus Aurelius trained even during war. Seneca walked miles every day. Cato forced himself into discomfort to make himself stronger. If they, with the weight of empires and philosophy on their shoulders, still found time to move and discipline their bodies, what is your excuse? You don't need to be perfect. You just need to start. So, will you take control, or will you keep making excuses? 3. Stop making excuses. Be honest with yourself. How many times have you told yourself, I don't have time. I'm just not talented enough. I don't know where to start. Now pause and ask, is it truly that you can't, or is it that you refuse to take responsibility? Excuses are the chains that bind a person to mediocrity. They are comforting because they absolve you of effort. They allow you to remain stagnant while convincing yourself that it's not your fault. But the harsh truth is this: excuses are self-imposed limitations. The more you feed them, the weaker you become. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus taught that external events are beyond our control, but our actions and decisions are entirely our own. Every time you say "I can't," you are not speaking the truth. You are choosing a convenient lie. Because the truth is, barring true physical impossibility, you can, you just won't. And that is a decision, not a limitation. You hesitate to act, and then, to justify your inaction, you invent reasons that make it acceptable. It's not that I'm lazy, it's that I'm tired. It's not that I lack discipline, it's that I'm waiting for the right moment. This is not just self-deception, it is a corruption of your own mind. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire through war, famine, and betrayal. Do you think he ever allowed himself the excuse of exhaustion? Do you think he ever said, "Today, I am too overwhelmed to lead"? Instead, he reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He understood that to be strong, you must first defeat the enemy within, the part of you that seeks comfort over challenge. Excuses are not justifications, they are indulgences. Each one reinforces weakness. The more often you say "I don't have time," the more you condition yourself to believe it. The more you say "I'm not good at this," the more you ensure that you never will be. The mind, if left untrained, becomes an obstacle rather than an asset. Think about the last time you set a goal. Perhaps you wanted to learn a new language. You imagined yourself speaking fluently, holding conversations, mastering new words. In that moment, the vision was clear. You downloaded an app. You watched a video about the best study methods. But as days passed, so did your discipline. And then the excuses came. "I don't know where to start. I'm just not good at languages. You can't really learn without living in the country." And so, 6 months later, you still struggle to say even a basic phrase. The Stoics knew that comfort is the enemy of progress. Cato the Younger, one of Rome's greatest Stoics, deliberately sought discomfort. He would walk barefoot, endure the cold, and expose himself to hardship, not because he had to, but because he understood that an easy life makes a person weak. If you seek comfort, life will feel difficult. If you seek to conquer yourself, no challenge will be too great. So how do you break free from excuses? The answer is action. Don't explain your philosophy, Epictetus said. Embody it. If you claim to seek improvement, let your actions prove it. Instead of saying, "I don't feel like it today," say, "I will take one step forward." The greatest resistance is always at the beginning. Once you start, the struggle disappears. Arnold Schwarzenegger had every excuse in the world to stay in his comfort zone. When he arrived in the US, he barely spoke English. Hollywood producers told him his accent was too thick, his name was too long, and his body was too bulky to ever make it in films. He had every reason to say, "Maybe I should stick to bodybuilding. Maybe I should just accept my limits." But instead of making excuses, he took action. He turned his accent into his signature. He trained relentlessly until he got his first role. He created opportunities for himself instead of waiting for the right time. And because of that, he went from being an unknown immigrant to becoming one of the most successful bodybuilders, actors, entrepreneurs, and politicians of his generation. He didn't make it because he was lucky. He made it because he didn't allow himself a single excuse. The Stoics would remind you that there is no right time. There is only now. Hesitation is a slow poison, and every moment wasted is a moment lost forever. Seneca warned, While we waste our time hesitating and postponing, life is slipping away. If you keep telling yourself tomorrow, one day you will wake up and realize you have run out of tomorrows. So, how do you stop making excuses? You train yourself. You deliberately make your mind stronger by challenging its weakness. If you are afraid of public speaking, force yourself to speak up every day. If you think you lack the discipline to exercise, commit to 10 push-ups, no matter how tired you are. The more you act despite discomfort, the less control your excuses will have over you. And if you still struggle, impose a consequence. The Stoics believed that true self-discipline requires accountability. If you make an excuse, create a penalty. Did you avoid studying today? Donate money to charity. Did you skip your morning workout? Take a cold shower as a reminder that discipline is not optional. When you attach a cost to every excuse, they lose their power. The key to overcoming excuses is consistency. A small action, repeated daily, is more powerful than a grand gesture done once. You do not need to make massive changes overnight. You need to commit to small, deliberate steps, because every step forward weakens the hold of your old habits. Every time you say, "I can't," do something small to prove that you can. Every time you say, "It's not the right time," take action right now. Every time your mind tries to justify itself, silence it with action. You are not entitled to an easy path. The world owes you nothing. The Stoics knew that character is forged in struggle. The only way to become stronger is to challenge yourself, to do the hard things, especially when you don't want to push forward even when it's inconvenient. Because the only way to become your best self is to stop tolerating a weak version of yourself. So tell me, did you train your mind today, or did you just fill it with excuses? Because if you do not challenge yourself, no one else will. The choice is yours. Remain a prisoner of comfort, or break free and become your best self. 4. Use your mind as your greatest weapon. There was once a warrior who wielded the sharpest sword in the kingdom. With a single strike, he could cut through anything. His weapon made him invincible. But over time, he grew overconfident. He stopped practicing, convinced that his sword would always remain sharp. He left it in its sheath. Days turned into months, months into years. One day, a challenger appeared, demanding a duel. The warrior, certain of his skills, stepped forward. He unsheathed his sword and swung, but instead of slicing cleanly through the air, the blade was rusted, dull, and useless. His greatest weapon, once feared by all, had become dead weight. Now, think about yourself. How many times have you done the same with your own mind? Your mind is your most powerful tool. If you sharpen it daily, it becomes your greatest ally. If you neglect it, it rusts, it slows down, it weakens. And one day when you need it most, when you must make a crucial decision, face an unexpected challenge, or seize an opportunity, you will find that it has failed you. Not because it was never strong, but because you let it deteriorate. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus warned, "Only the educated are free." Knowledge is not about memorizing facts. It is about knowing how to think, how to question, how to make decisions. Whoever controls their mind controls their life. But those who let their thoughts drift aimlessly, who feed their minds with distractions, who allow laziness to dictate their actions, become prisoners of their own limitations. Maybe you haven't noticed, but every time you let your mind run on autopilot, every time you scroll through endless content without purpose, every time you avoid a challenge because it seems too difficult, you are weakening yourself. Your ability to focus diminishes. Your thoughts become sluggish. You lose the sharpness that once made you quick and decisive. And then, one day, you wake up and realize you are no longer as mentally strong as you once were. Marcus Aurelius knew this well. Despite ruling one of the greatest empires in history, he never stopped learning. He read, he wrote, he questioned his own beliefs. He treated the mind as a fortress, one that must be reinforced daily. Even in the midst of war, he carried books with him, not because he had the luxury of free time, but because he understood that a dull mind was more dangerous than a dull sword. Look at yourself. Are you sharpening your mind daily, or are you letting it rust? Many people believe intelligence is something you are born with, but that is a lie. Intelligence is something you train. The mind is like a muscle. If you do not challenge it, it shrinks. If you do not feed it, it starves. If you do not exercise it, it atrophies. And just like physical training, mental training requires effort. Mel Robbins, one of the most direct voices on mental discipline, says the problem isn't that people don't know what to do. It's that their brains are wired to avoid discomfort. The moment you try something difficult, your mind searches for an escape. It's too complicated. I don't have time. I'll do it later. But you already know how to silence excuses. You already know that action is the only cure for hesitation. If you want to turn your mind into your greatest weapon, you must train it deliberately. First, use the 5-second rule. The next time you hesitate to do something important, count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and act. Do not overthink. Do not give your mind time to sabotage you. Just move. The Stoics believed in immediate action. Delay is the greatest thief of life, Seneca warned. If something must be done, do it now. Second, train your mind with small, consistent challenges. Every day, do something that pushes your mental limits. Read a page of philosophy. Write a journal entry. Memorize a passage from a great thinker. Question a belief you've always held. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If you feed your mind with strength, it will become strong. If you feed it with weakness, it will decay." Third, strengthen your ability to think critically. Do not accept information at face value. Question everything. When you read or hear something, ask yourself, does this make sense? How can I apply this to my life? Are there other perspectives? A sharp mind is not just one that knows, it's one that understands. The Stoics did not believe in passive learning. Cato the Younger, one of Rome's greatest Stoics, practiced argumentation every day. He deliberately put himself in difficult debates, not to prove he was right, but to test the strength of his reasoning. He knew that a mind left untested would become weak. Winston Churchill, one of history's greatest leaders, understood the power of the mind. Despite struggling with formal education as a child, he refused to let his limitations define him. He forced himself to master language, to study history, to refine his ability to think. He practiced his speeches relentlessly, crafting them word by word, sharpening his mind like a warrior sharpens his blade. And because of that, when the world fell into chaos, he was ready. So what about you? You claim you want to improve. You claim you want to be your best self. But are you training your mind for it? Or are you letting it weaken? If you are not actively sharpening your mind, you are allowing it to rust. There is no middle ground. The Stoics did not wait for knowledge to come to them. They sought it. They trained their minds daily. They read, wrote, debated, and reflected. They understood that a weak mind leads to a weak life. So tell me, are you sharpening your sword, or are you letting it rust? 5. Erase the noise from your mind. Imagine walking into a crowded marketplace where everyone is shouting at once. Merchants try to sell you things you don't need. Strangers argue about politics, and gossips spread the latest scandal. Everywhere you turn, another voice demands your attention. The noise is unbearable. You try to focus on just one conversation, but the words blend together into chaos. Now tell me, what would you do? Most likely you'd leave. You wouldn't stand there, overwhelmed by voices pulling you in every direction. You wouldn't stay in a place where you couldn't think clearly. And yet, this is exactly what you allow to happen inside your own mind every day. Because whether you realize it or not, your mind has become that chaotic marketplace. Every morning you wake up and the noise begins. Notifications flash on your phone, a breaking news alert, a message demanding your attention, social media updates filled with opinions, advertisements, comparisons, and distractions. Your mind, before it has even had a moment of stillness, is flooded, and it continues all day. A never-ending stream of voices telling you what to think, what to want, what to fear. But here's the truth. If you do not control what enters your mind, it will be controlled for you. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology confirmed it. Seneca warned, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." When your attention is scattered across 1,000 distractions, you are not truly present anywhere. Your ability to focus diminishes. Your thoughts become sluggish. You react instead of thinking. And slowly, without realizing it, you lose control of your own mind. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling the vast Roman Empire, still made time for silence. He understood that external noise leads to internal confusion. He wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Even in the middle of war and political chaos, he guarded his mind. He refused to let the distractions of the world dictate his thoughts. He sought clarity because he knew that without it, he would not be able to lead. Now look at yourself. How much of your mental energy is being wasted on meaningless noise? How often do you find yourself scrolling through content that adds nothing to your life? How much time do you spend absorbing opinions, controversies, and distractions that do not serve you? The answer is simple. If you are not actively filtering what enters your mind, you are allowing your mental energy to be stolen. And of course, noise is addictive. The more you consume, the harder it is to stop. Social media, news, entertainment, they are all designed to keep your attention, to make you feel like you need to stay plugged in. But the Stoics knew that true power lies in stillness, not in chasing endless stimulation. So how do you break the cycle? Try this. Imagine a mental diet. Imagine waking up, and instead of immediately reaching for your phone, you sit in silence. You stretch. You take a deep breath. You begin your day with clarity, not with distractions. You eat breakfast, not with a screen in front of you, not with the TV on, but fully present. You taste your food. You notice the small details around you. You are here now. As you leave the house, you don't put in your headphones. No music, no podcasts, no news playing in the background. Just the sound of the real world. The wind, your footsteps, the things you've been too distracted to notice. During the day, every time you feel the urge to check your phone for no reason, you pause. You ask yourself, do I actually need to see this right now? At lunch, you eat slowly. You don't scroll. You don't consume negative headlines. You simply eat with your mind fully present. In the afternoon, you resist the temptation to engage in meaningless distractions. You understand that missing a day of news, of drama, of social media updates will not harm you, but filling your mind with endless noise will. And before bed, instead of drowning in mindless entertainment, you reflect. You write down how you feel. Just a few lines, nothing more. Can you imagine a day like that? Less noise, more clarity, less distraction, more focus, more control over your own mind. This isn't about rejecting the modern world. It's about mastering your own attention. The Stoics did not have social media, but they understood the dangers of distraction. Epictetus taught, if a person gave away your body to a stranger, you would be furious. Yet you hand over your mind to anyone who enters it without a second thought. Your mind is your fortress. But if you leave the gates open, anything can enter. Every piece of useless information, every pointless argument, every comparison that steals your peace. The first step to regaining control is to filter what enters. Winston Churchill, despite leading Britain through war, still carved out time for deep thought. He would take long walks alone, reflecting, thinking without interruption. He understood that true leadership requires clarity, and clarity requires space. He did not allow his mind to be overrun by distractions. He protected it. You must do the same. If you do not guard your mind, it will be filled with noise. If you do not choose what deserves your attention, others will choose for you. And if you are not careful, you will wake up one day to find that your thoughts are no longer your own. So, I challenge you, just for one day, try it. Take back control. Reduce the noise, guard your mind, because in a world full of distractions, silence is not just peace, it is power. 6. If you don't believe in yourself, no one will. There was once a young man with a dream so big that people laughed when he spoke about it. He had no connections, no wealth, and no special advantages. He was just another unknown name in a world that values certainty over ambition. He slept in a van, struggling to make ends meet, performing in rundown bars where no one paid attention. He had every reason to give up. But there was one thing that set him apart. He believed in himself when no one else did. His belief was not just words. It was a commitment. He wrote himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, dated it 5 years into the future, and carried it in his wallet every day. Every time doubt crept in, he looked at it. Every time rejection knocked him down, he reminded himself, this is where I'm going. This is who I am. And 5 years later, he landed a role in Dumb and Dumber for exactly $10 million. That young man was Jim Carrey. Now, ask yourself, what would have happened if he hadn't believed in himself? What if he had allowed the world to convince him he wasn't good enough? And more importantly, how many times have you done that to yourself? How many times have you given up before even starting? How many times have you told yourself, I'm not talented enough, before even trying? How many times have you abandoned an opportunity, not because you weren't capable, but because you didn't trust yourself to succeed? Marcus Aurelius understood this well. He ruled an empire, led armies, and faced betrayals, yet he never wavered in his belief in himself. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Imagine if Marcus Aurelius had doubted every decision. Imagine if he had woken up thinking, I don't know if I should lead Rome today, maybe tomorrow, or worse. Let me ask the barbarians if they'd rather invade now or later. Spoiler, he wouldn't have won a single battle. Marcus Aurelius was not great because he had an easy life. He was great because he had an unshakable mindset. He knew that every victory, every challenge, every decision, it all started in the mind. And now tell me, how many times have you let others define what you can or cannot do? Imagine you decide to move to another country, to start fresh, to challenge yourself. You're excited, motivated, ready for the adventure. But then the voices start. That's too hard. You'll fail. You'll end up coming back. And little by little, you start to doubt yourself. You begin to believe in their fears more than in your own abilities. What if they're right? What if I don't make it? Stop. No more what ifs. Because here's the truth. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. The Stoics were not dreamers. They did not rely on luck or wishful thinking. They relied on discipline, action, and belief in their own strength. Cato the Younger, one of the most unyielding Stoics, stood against corruption when everyone told him it was impossible. He did not wait for others to approve of his fight. He acted because he knew it was the right thing to do. Winston Churchill, who led Britain through World War II, had no reason to believe he could change history. He had been mocked, dismissed, and labelled a failure before he ever became Prime Minister. But when the world was on the brink of destruction, he did not hesitate. He stood before his people and declared, "We shall never surrender." He did not wait for the world to give him permission to believe in himself. He decided to believe, and that decision shaped history. And now, I ask you, what is stopping you from believing in yourself? Do you want to start building that belief? Then start with this. Write down 3 things you are genuinely good at. These can be skills, personality traits, or strengths that have helped you in the past. Maybe you are resilient. Maybe you are disciplined. Maybe you have an ability to learn quickly. Whatever they are, acknowledge them. See them clearly. Then write down 3 things you can improve. But be careful. This is not to discourage you. This is to remind you that everything can be worked on. A weakness today can become a strength tomorrow. The Stoics believed in self-mastery, and self-mastery begins with honest evaluation. Next, turn belief into action. The problem with most affirmations is that they are empty. Saying, "I am successful" means nothing if you don't believe it. Instead, say, "I am learning every day and getting closer to my goal." Instead of "I am the best," say, "I am capable of improving with every effort." The key is not just to say it, but to live it. But belief alone is not enough. It must be followed by action. Arnold Schwarzenegger believed he would be the best bodybuilder in the world. But he did not stop at belief. He trained relentlessly. He believed he could become a Hollywood star, despite his thick accent and unusual name. He was told he would never make it. But instead of listening, he worked harder. He trained his voice, studied acting, and refused to let the world's doubt become his own. And today, he is one of the most recognized names in history, not because the world believed in him, but because he believed in himself first. If you do not believe you can improve, you won't. If you do not believe you are strong enough, you will break at the first challenge. If you do not believe your goals are possible, you will never take the first step. Jim Carrey's check was not magic. Marcus Aurelius's leadership was not fate. Churchill's speeches were not luck. They all believed first, then they acted. And you must do the same. Because here's the thing, believing in yourself is not arrogance. It is the foundation of everything. So I ask you one final question. If you don't bet on yourself, who will? 7. Peace is not something you find, it's something you build. Stop for a moment and be honest with yourself. When was the last time you truly felt at peace? Not the temporary relief of distraction, not the artificial escape of binge-watching a show, but real, unshakable peace. The kind of peace that stays with you even when life is difficult. The kind of peace that does not depend on external circumstances, but is rooted deep within you. If you can't remember, you are not alone. Most people go through life chasing peace as if it were some treasure they might stumble upon one day. They believe it is something they will find once things fall into place. When I have more money, I'll finally be happy. When I get that promotion, I'll feel at ease. When this problem is over, I'll be able to relax. And so years go by, always looking ahead, always believing that peace is something waiting for them in the future. But my friend, peace is not something you find. Peace is something you build. There are people who have lived through unimaginable suffering, war, loss, betrayal, yet they have found peace. Not because life became kind to them, not because someone handed it to them, but because they built it. They made a choice, over and over again, to focus on what they could control and let go of everything else. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, was born a slave. He had no power over his circumstances, no wealth, no privilege. Yet he found peace. He said, "Men are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them." What does that mean? It means that peace is not about what happens to you. It's about how you interpret it, how you respond to it. If a man born in chains could find inner peace, what excuse do we have? Of course, we do not live in ancient Rome. We live in a world of hyper-connectivity, bombarded with information, stress, and distractions at every turn. We say we want peace, yet we fill our lives with things that steal it from us. We invite negativity into our minds. We engage in pointless arguments. We allow the chaos of the world to consume us. We scroll endlessly through news that fills us with anxiety. We compare our lives to strangers on the internet. We let other people's opinions dictate our self-worth. And then we wonder why we feel restless. Marcus Aurelius ruled over an empire in constant turmoil, yet he remained centered. He understood that peace is not something granted. It is something cultivated through discipline and perspective. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He did not waste energy wishing for a peaceful life. He built peace within himself, even as war and betrayal surrounded him. So, let me ask you, are you waiting for peace to come to you, or are you doing something to create it? If you are waiting, you will wait forever. If you want true peace, you must train your mind to hold steady, regardless of what happens around you. The Stoics did not wait for life to be perfect before they allowed themselves to be at peace. They practiced peace daily through their actions and mindset. If you truly want to build peace, start with this. Create pockets of stillness in your day. You cannot expect to feel calm if you are surrounded by chaos 24/7. Set aside at least 10 minutes a day where you do nothing but sit in silence. No distractions, no phone, no external noise, just you and your thoughts. Let your mind breathe. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling an empire, made time for this practice. He journaled his thoughts, reflected in solitude, and did not allow himself to be consumed by the outside world. He did not wait for peace. He made space for it. Second, let go of what you cannot control. Ask yourself, how much energy do you waste on things that are outside your power? Traffic, the opinions of others, the mistakes of the past, the uncertainties of the future. None of these belong to you, yet most people spend their days worrying about them, stressing over things that no amount of thinking will change. Seneca warned, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Most of the pain we feel is self-inflicted, created by the way we allow our thoughts to spiral. But the moment you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, the moment you release that weight, peace begins to grow." Third, practice radical gratitude. Most people believe they will be at peace once life changes, when they get what they want, when things are easier, when success comes. But peace is not found in the future. It is found in appreciating what is already here. Every day, find something to be grateful for. And don't just settle for the obvious things. Don't just be thankful for your home, your food, your health. Look deeper. Be thankful for the small moments, a conversation that made you smile, the quiet second before your day began, the feeling of the sun on your skin. The Stoics believed in training the mind to see abundance in the present, instead of always wishing for more. Winston Churchill, a man who led Britain through its Stoic Tower, understood this well. He did not wait for peace to come to him. He created it through deep reflection, through long solitary walks, through moments of quiet thought. He did not let war, politics, or external pressures consume him. He built his own inner world, one that no amount of external chaos could shake. And because of that, he remained steadfast when the world needed him most. But now, ask yourself, what happens if you do not take control of your own peace? Without inner peace, you will always be restless. You will chase one achievement after another, thinking that success will bring you calm, only to find that every new victory brings new worries. You will allow other people's opinions to dictate your emotions. You will live life constantly reacting, never fully in control of your own mind. Look around at modern society. Anxiety, stress, burnout are at an all-time high. Despite having more comfort than any generation before us, people are more mentally exhausted than ever. Why? Because people have forgotten how to be still. They have forgotten that peace is not something that appears when life is perfect. It is something that is built, moment by moment, through conscious effort. So, I ask you one last time, are you letting your mind settle, or are you still shaking it with unnecessary worries? Are you waiting for peace to magically appear, or are you taking daily steps to create it? Because here's the truth. Peace is not waiting for you at the end of your goals. It is something you decide to build right now, in this moment. If you cannot find peace within yourself today, you will not find it anywhere else tomorrow. To become the best version of yourself, you must first master the art of inner peace. 8. Master your time, or it will master you. Imagine you're in a race, but instead of running, you're walking, slowly, without urgency, convinced that the finish line is far away. You stop to look around, get distracted, thinking there's still plenty of time. You convince yourself there's no rush. Then suddenly, you check the clock. The finish line is just a few steps away, but now you have almost no time left to reach it. Panic sets in. You start sprinting, desperately trying to do in moments what could have been done gradually, efficiently, and with far less stress. This is how we treat time. We think we have plenty of it. We assume we can always do things later. We tell ourselves we'll start tomorrow. And then, before we know it, tomorrow is gone. The years have slipped away. The opportunities we once thought were abundant have disappeared. And suddenly, we are left sprinting against time, trying to catch up to a life we were too slow to build. The Stoics warned us about this centuries ago. Seneca wrote, "While we waste our time hesitating and postponing, life is slipping away. Time does not wait. It moves forward, indifferent to whether we use it wisely or let it pass." and if you do not learn to master it, it will master you. Parkinson's law explains this perfectly. Work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion. If you have a week to complete a task, it will take a week. If you have a month, it will take a month. But if you only have a day, you will finish it in a day. And you've experienced this before. Imagine it's Monday and you're assigned a project due on Friday. On Monday, you think, I have all week, no rush. Tuesday, the same. Wednesday, you glance at it. Thursday, panic sets in. And by Friday, you're working frantically, under pressure, doing something in hours that could have been done in days. The result? Stress, exhaustion, and work that could have been much better if only you had managed your time properly. This is not just about productivity. This is about life itself. If you do not take control of your time, it will control you. It will drag you from one obligation to another, filling your days with trivial tasks, while the things that truly matter, your growth, your ambitions, your best self, get pushed aside. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He was not just an emperor, he was a master of his time. Despite ruling over Rome, he structured his days with discipline, ensuring that he had time for philosophy, reflection, and self-improvement. He wrote, "Do not act as if you had 1,000 years to live. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." He did not waste time, he commanded it. Now ask yourself, are you in control of your time, or is it controlling you? If you want to take back control, you must become ruthless with how you use your time. The first step, prioritize what truly matters. Most people make the mistake of overloading their to-do lists with 20 tasks and then accomplishing none of them. Instead, simplify. Write down only 3 important tasks per day, not 20, not 10, just 3, and they must be specific. If you're building a business, don't write work on my company. Instead, write call 3 key clients, finalize this week's budget, and plan the social media strategy. If you're studying, don't just write review material. Be precise. Create an outline of the first 3 topics, or solve 5 math problems. If you want to improve your health, exercise is too vague. Instead, write, go to the gym and complete my weightlifting routine, or prepare 3 healthy meals for tomorrow. By making your task specific, you remove the mental resistance that often leads to procrastination. When you know exactly what you need to do, you waste less time hesitating and more time acting. And once you finish those 3 tasks, you'll feel a sense of real progress. You won't end the day exhausted yet unfulfilled. You will know that you moved forward in the things that actually matter. And the best part? If you finish those 3 tasks early, you can always do more. But the key is that your most important work is already done. Your growth, your improvement, your best version, all of it begins with how you spend your time. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a perfect example of this. He was not just a champion bodybuilder, a Hollywood star, and a governor. He was a master of time. When he was training to become Mr. Olympia, he structured every hour of his day. He woke up early, trained for hours, studied, built his acting career, and refused to waste time on meaningless distractions. He was relentless with his schedule because he understood that time was his greatest asset. If he could train his body, build his career, and enter politics, all in one lifetime, what excuse do we have? Winston Churchill, despite leading Britain through World War II, followed a strict personal schedule. He blocked out time for deep work, reflection, and even naps. because he understood that controlling time was essential to making powerful decisions. He did not let external chaos dictate his schedule. He mastered his own time, and in doing so, shaped history. Now, look at your own life. How much time have you wasted on distractions? How many hours have disappeared in mindless scrolling, in hesitation, in doing things that do not contribute to your best self? The truth is, you are either spending time or investing it. Every moment you waste is a moment you will never get back. Every decision you make with your time is shaping who you become. So here's the question. Are you still letting time dictate your life, or are you finally taking control? Starting today, make the commitment to master your time. Set 3 key tasks every day. Stick to them. Make them non-negotiable. Guard your time like a warrior guards his weapon, because once it is lost, it is gone forever. Life is not a race that allows you to walk without urgency. The finish line is always approaching, whether you see it or not. Will you reach it with purpose, knowing you made every moment count? Or will you look back, realizing that time mastered you instead of the other way around? The choice is yours. 9. Learn to be alone without feeling lonely. You're at home. Total silence. You check your phone. Nothing. You step outside and see groups of friends laughing, couples holding hands, people lost in their own conversations, immersed in their own lives. And there you are, standing alone, feeling like an outsider, like an umbrella in the middle of the desert, out of place, disconnected. But wait, why does being alone have to be a bad thing? Why does solitude feel like something to escape rather than something to embrace? We live in a world that equates solitude with loneliness. We are conditioned to believe that if we are alone, something must be missing. But the truth is, being alone and being lonely are not the same thing. Loneliness is the absence of connection with others, a feeling of isolation. Solitude, when embraced, is the presence of a deeper connection with yourself. Most people avoid being alone, not because they need constant companionship, but because facing themselves is uncomfortable. They drown out silence with social media, fill empty moments with distractions, and constantly seek validation from the outside world. Because sitting with their own thoughts terrifies them. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, understood this well. He once said, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." What does this mean? It means that if your sense of fulfillment depends on external validation, on being surrounded by people, on constant entertainment, on never being alone, then you are not truly free. You are a prisoner of circumstance, always needing something outside yourself to feel whole. But true power, true freedom, comes from within. Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, lived a life surrounded by people. He had advisors, generals, and entire armies at his command. Yet, despite all the voices around him, he wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter retreat than in his own soul." Even as the ruler of the most powerful empire in the world, he understood that real peace did not come from external validation. It came from within. Now let me ask you, do you constantly seek distractions? Do you feel uneasy in silence? Do you need music, notifications, or background noise just to feel comfortable? If so, you're not alone. Our brains are wired to seek comfort, to avoid discomfort. But here's the twist. That discomfort is exactly where growth happens. Most people are terrified of being alone because it forces them to confront who they truly are. It forces them to reflect on their thoughts, their insecurities, their fears. But instead of using solitude as a tool for self-discovery, they run from it. They fill every empty moment with something, anything, to avoid being alone with themselves. The Stoics valued self-sufficiency above all else. To them, a person who cannot be content alone is weak, because their happiness is at the mercy of others. If you need company to feel at peace, you are not in control of your own mind. You are dependent. Cato the Younger, one of the most unyielding Stoics, was famous for his ability to stand alone. He walked barefoot in the cold, wore the simplest clothes, and refused to indulge in comfort. Why? Because he believed that if he could endure solitude and hardship, he would be unshakable. He did not need approval. He did not need distractions. He did not need anything outside himself to feel whole. The same applies to you. If you can learn to be comfortable in your own company, you become powerful. You are no longer controlled by the fear of being alone. You do not seek relationships out of desperation, but out of true desire. You do not fill your time with noise, but with meaning. So, how do you go from feeling lonely to actually enjoying your own company? First, take yourself on a date. It sounds strange, but it's not. Plan an outing as if you were doing it for someone you care about. Go to your favorite restaurant and actually enjoy every bite. No phone, no distractions. Go for a walk without the need to text someone about it. Watch the sunset, not through a camera lens, but with your own eyes. Be present with yourself. Second, do something alone that you would normally do with others. Does going to the movies alone sound awkward? Sitting in a cafe without someone across from you? Do it. You'll quickly realize that no one is paying attention to you as much as you think. In fact, it is liberating to enjoy something without depending on anyone else's schedule, preferences, or approval. It's a reminder that your happiness does not have to be shared to be real. Third, use solitude as a tool for self-understanding. Write, not for social media, not for others, just for yourself. Jot down your thoughts, your frustrations, your dreams. When you listen to yourself, you stop needing so much external noise. Seneca, one of the most practical Stoics, wrote, "People who know themselves are never bored when alone." He understood that solitude was not something to fear, it was something to cultivate. But why do most people fear solitude? Because they do not want to face themselves. Solitude forces you to confront your own thoughts, your own insecurities, your own regrets. It strips away distractions and leaves you with nothing but yourself. Most people fill their lives with external noise to avoid this moment. They seek validation through likes, through conversations, through being constantly surrounded by others. But here's the truth. If you cannot be happy alone, you will never be truly happy with others. Because no matter how many people surround you, you will always feel that something is missing. Seneca wrote, "If you are not content with yourself when alone, you will never be content no matter where you are." Think about that. If you cannot sit with your own thoughts, what does that say about your relationship with yourself? Winston Churchill, despite leading Britain through its darkest hours, made time for solitude. He took long walks alone. He painted. He reflected. He understood that a leader who does not know himself cannot lead others. His moments of solitude were not loneliness. They were a source of strength. Arnold Schwarzenegger, before he became a champion bodybuilder, spent hours training alone. He did not wait for motivation. He did not depend on others to push him forward. He built his discipline in solitude. And because he learned to push himself without needing applause, he became unstoppable. And now, ask yourself, can you sit in silence without feeling restless? Can you go a day without constantly seeking validation from others? Can you enjoy your own company, not as a last resort, but as a privilege? Because here's the truth: solitude is not a punishment. It is an opportunity. If you learn to embrace it, you become stronger, more independent. You become your own best company. So tell me, are you still running from yourself? Are you still filling your life with distractions to avoid facing your own thoughts? Or are you ready to embrace solitude, to build self-sufficiency, to master the ability to stand alone? Because once you do that, once you no longer fear your own company, you become unstoppable. 10. Speak less, make more impact. Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary samurai, rarely spoke. Not because he was shy, nor because he lacked confidence, but because he understood something that most people never grasp. Words mean nothing if actions don't back them up. Before every duel, his opponents would boast about their skills, make bold promises of victory, and try to intimidate him with grand speeches. Musashi, on the other hand, simply listened. He observed. He studied their movements, their arrogance, their overconfidence, and when the moment of truth arrived, he let his sword do the talking. The result was always the same. The one who spoke the most was always the first to fall. Epictetus put it even more simply. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. What's the point of claiming to be disciplined if you don't keep your commitments? What's the point of promising to change if you keep repeating the same habits? What's the point of talking about your grand plans if you never take action? Words without action are just noise. They create the illusion of progress, but produce nothing real. The more you talk about what you want to do, the more you feel like you're making progress, when in reality, you are only giving yourself an illusion of movement. Imagine this. You have a brilliant business idea. In your mind, everything is clear. The name, the logo, the website, the marketing strategy. You can already visualize success. Every person you meet, you tell them with excitement, I'm launching my own business. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to revolutionize the market. Day after day, you keep talking about it. You make lists, watch videos, read books about entrepreneurship. You feel like you're moving forward because you think about it all the time. But here's the reality. You haven't done a thing. You haven't built a product. You haven't made a single call. You haven't taken the first step. And the worst part? The more you talk about it, the more you feel like you're already on your way, like just saying it out loud is enough to make it real. But it's not. Weeks later, you see someone else launch a similar idea, and you think, that could have been me. But it wasn't. Because while you were talking, someone else was doing. This is why becoming your best self is not about announcing what you're going to do. It's about doing it. Arnold Schwarzenegger built his career on action, not words. He didn't spend time telling people he was going to be the greatest bodybuilder of all time. He trained relentlessly until the results spoke for themselves. He didn't waste time explaining why he should be an actor. He worked on his craft, pushed past rejection, and turned himself into a global star. Later, when he entered politics, people doubted him, but he didn't argue. He proved himself through results. He understood what the Stoics taught. You don't need to tell the world what you will do. Do it, and let the world take notice. Winston Churchill, one of history's greatest leaders, was also a man who believed in precision in words and strength in action. He knew that excessive speech weakens one's influence. When he spoke, he made every word count. His speeches were short, powerful, and filled with conviction. He understood that people do not remember those who talk the most, but those who say what truly matters. So how do you apply this to your own life? First, stop seeking validation through words. Many people talk about their goals because they crave approval. They want to hear others say, "That's a great idea," or "You're going to be so successful." But here's the truth. External validation means nothing if there's no action behind it. Instead of seeking approval, seek progress. Measure yourself by what you build, not by what you say you will build. Second, let your results speak for themselves. Don't tell people you're changing. Let them notice. Don't announce that you're going to wake up early. Just do it. Don't explain that you've become more disciplined. Let your actions prove it. This isn't about hiding your progress. It's about focusing on execution instead of wasting energy on words. Third, practice restraint in speech. The more you talk, the less you listen. The more you explain, the less you do. The Stoics believed in choosing words carefully and speaking only when necessary. Seneca wrote, "Speech that is bold and uncontrolled leads to reckless actions. The less you say, the more weight your words carry. When you speak, make it count. When you act, let it be undeniable. And beyond that, speak less and be more present. Listen more. Speak only when you have something meaningful to contribute. Instead of trying to impress with speeches, impress with your attitude. In the end, words come and go, but actions, they leave a lasting impact. So tell me, are your words building something real, or are they just filling the air? Because your best self isn't built with promises. It's built with actions. Every day is a new chance to shape the person you want to become. It's not about waiting for the perfect moment or getting lost in endless plans. It's about action. Your best self isn't something you find. It's something you build. With every decision, every habit, and every moment, you choose discipline over distraction. You are forging a stronger, wiser, and more resilient version of yourself. The Stoics knew this well. Growth is not a single event, but a daily practice. If you've made it this far, prove that you are committed to your journey. Comment below, "I build myself." Let it be a declaration, a commitment to the path you've chosen. And if you found value in this, support the journey, like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. The path to self-mastery doesn't end here. There's more to learn, more to apply, and more strength to uncover. Check out the playlist on the screen, filled with lessons to help you sharpen your mind and elevate your life. Until next time, stay strong, stay focused, and keep embracing your inner